It is now time for our community moment. Our community moment is just an opportunity for someone in our community to come up and share whatever. Sometimes it's a passion, sometimes it's their story. It can be any number of things. This morning, Bill Solomon is coming up to share. When I asked him for his 3 words to describe himself, he said that he was a generalist, that he's methodical, and that he's nerdy. And his warning label, if he had one, would be, "Don't get me started on Kansas City politics." So if you would please welcome Bill Solomon.
Nope. About a year ago, Myrna and I attended a humanist conference in Omaha. One speaker told us about establishing a humanist chapter in the Iowa State Penitentiary. At the end of his presentation, he said many prisoners would like to correspond with outside people who had humanist leanings. I signed up and got a name, wrote an introductory letter, and we've been exchanging letters now since last August. These are real letters, words on paper, envelopes, stamps going to the post office. No email. The prisoners do not have access to the internet. It's been a good experience for me, and I want to share a little bit of it with you. My man's name is Travis Wolfkill, and a couple of other also known as, and this is where he lives. These are views of the Iowa State Penitentiary. These pictures were taken from an article which appeared in the Des Moines Register when the prison first opened in 2014. My man is serving a sentence of life without parole. He entered the prison when he was 19. He's 33 now. He's published a book. It's available on Amazon in ebook format. His title is Diary of a Satanist. He says, if you read my book, you will see that the title is somewhat of a misnomer. The first couple of chapters explain how the satanic religion has served me in prison, but the rest of the book is a collection of short stories. He's finished in the top 3 of a local essay contest in the last 2 years. And for this year, he says, I placed 3rd in the essay contest. I actually tied for 2nd, but they didn't want to tie this year. Ironically, I tied for 2nd last year. The prizes were hygiene items and a notepad. It's like, hey, your spelling and grammar are immaculate. Here's some toothpaste. His letters to me are scholarly and studious and well thought out. And he says, I try to look at my writing as an art form. Civil War letters are very valuable and collectible right now. If someone were to read my letters a century from now, I would want them to be impressed. He recently sent me the name of another person who is primarily interested in poetry and would like to discuss and trade poems with someone. This man requests a liberal, poetically inspired, and possibly personally inspiring correspondent. He says, let us explore each other at a level that will allow us to unite spirits. And so I made an address card for him, and if you want to see me afterwards, if you'd like to start a correspondence. Over the past few months, Travis and I have talked about many things. One subject that is dear to his heart, obviously, is his sentence. He said in one letter, I was only a teenager when arrested. I deserve prison for my crime, but I should get a second chance one day. Well, if Travis does get a second chance, he wants to become a motivational speaker. He thinks telling about his experiences will help other teenagers stay out of trouble. We've talked on the phone, and I can tell you that he speaks as well as he writes. And I believe, if given a second chance, he'd be an instant success on the speaking circuit. Another subject that's prominent in our conversations is that of mass incarceration. He tells me Iowa has a disproportionate number of African American inmates. The prisons are densely populated with them, although the state is sparsely populated by people of color. The majority of inmates are from low-income families. This is very true. People of color make up about 15% of the general population and about 40% of the prison population. Right now, there are a little bit more than 2 million people in prison. But if you add the people on parole, people in juvenile detention, community service, rehab, anger management, wherever else, there are 8 million people in this country under some kind of correctional supervision. 8 million. When I told Travis about Oasis, he came back with, yes, indeed, people are more important than beliefs. And then he added, especially dogma. And then he commented about the human hand solving human problems. And he says, I think animals can aid in solving human problems, whether it be laboratory mice or the companionship of a house pet. And animals guard and protect us. For instance, service dogs and canine dogs, police dogs. Now, it's difficult to share his poetry because he's pretty direct. He's dark, he's gothic, he's erotic. When I told him about this presentation, that I was going to do this, he said, one thing that may be helpful for the Oasis people to understand me is to somehow incorporate my personal philosophy. While many authors have influenced me, there are 3 unchangeable principles that I hold. So with these principles in mind, I'd like to read you some of his work. This is from a piece called The Marquis. I am the enemy of normal, twisted but cordial. This whole ordeal of murder, jail, prison, and the satanic religion is just one piece of the picture. And this is from the Green Mile. I was crazy for a brief era, maybe I still am and just can't see it clearly. Sometimes I feel illuminated, but that's just a human statement. We're really just animals, mammals with opinions. Our evolution is stunted each time we build a prison. And this is called Rain and Reflection. Do the colors of the rainbow reflect our souls, and does the rain fall for us all? In between the drops I found a home, in between these questions I found a poem. What if our DNA were a limerick written by aliens? What if God had Alzheimer's and forgot to save us? When did magic fade if it once existed? How many kids had an inner guide, grew up, and quit listening? Is the world run by secret societies, or are we in charge of our own destiny? I'm going to leave you with one last slide of his words. It isn't a life sentence, it's a slow death sentence. Thank you for listening.